Sup Shredders, post-production Spiderhands here, just making a very important amendment here to this part of the video before we get into the review, just so that you understand things correctly. Now, in this video, with what you'll hear, I have initially thought that Lee Wilding, which is correct, Lee Wilding wrote the song Mountain Song. This is their track, but I misinterpreted The Far North as being the album, when in fact The Far North is the name of Lee Wilding's project. So Lee Wilding is The Far North. The song is Mountain Song, but the upcoming album that I mentioned is titled Songs for Weathering Storms. Now, I'm going to mention these in little messages in the different parts of the video where I catch myself saying it, but just full disclosure, that's my mistake. The act's name is The Far North, song is Mountain Song, then the upcoming album is titled Songs for Weathering Storms. Thank you for your time. Otherwise, enjoy the video. Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Lee Wilding titled The Mountain Song. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the art on Music Beat for the single. Now, I should note that apparently at the time of reviewing this track isn't released yet, so the song, this single is going to be out apparently, if I'm not mistaken, on the 31st of October. And the album itself, The Far North, that this is off of, is going to be out on the 21st of November, if I understand correctly. So that's exciting. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it. Let's go.
The way things change, I don't think I can guess your next two moves. I miss you, but you're a strain on me, but still so much to prove. You say that you'll change, so I'll leave your key by the door. Soon after that, it all fades to black, and I'm not so in love anymore.
It's just so full-bodied, isn't it?
All along, the gaps in my heart don't belong. Breathe love in. Can we go back and begin? Can we go back and begin?
Lovely vibrato as well.
Every time I plant my feet, the rug pulls from underneath. I get back up for another round to climb this mountain you found. You say that you'll change, so I'll leave your key by the door. Soon after that, it all fades to black, and I'm not so in love anymore. All along, the gaps in my heart don't belong. Breathe love in. Can we go back and begin? Can we go back and begin?
We're used to vocals rhythmically in the background. Man, it just flew by, didn't it? I've got a lot to say about this track, but we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Lee Wilding off of the Far North album, the upcoming one, the song titled Mountain Song. So what do we think this track is about? I think this track is about someone who is trying to come to terms with a situation and with another who has presented this mountain to them that they're sort of supposed to overcome. And it's a very sort of difficult thing. And they're kind of asking whether they can start again. You know, they're wondering whether they can have another shot at it. They're saying that the person says, I'll change, and they're going to leave the keys by the door. But it effectively is sort of a tumultuous, potentially toxic relationship that they're in. It just, you know, maybe it's just too much of a mountain to climb. Either way, I think what's really intriguing about this track is the kind of mournful kind of cadence or way of expressing ourselves at the start of the track, and how it kind of follows on to a more sort of like joyous, upbeat, folksy section with the fiddle solo near the end. It's almost like structurally we start with those guitars and occasional keys there, and we are telling our story, but as the strings come in a little bit, it's like there's a bit of extra warmth or glow there. Maybe we're starting to realize the position we're in, and then at the end we start sort of jumping around and kind of getting a bit more sort of like active with the idea of either again overcoming the mountain or potentially not overcoming the mountain, and realizing we don't need to have that anymore. You know, we don't need to climb that mountain that's found where there are alternatives. You know, we can just start again or start fresh or go in a different direction. And so I think when a song provides different chord progressions and different instruments indicating new ideas, or when there's something that's introduced that leads you to a new sort of area entirely, that's not something you need the storyteller to tell you, and it just kind of elevates the status of the song itself. And I think the kind of playful tone of the solo on the fiddle there sort of insinuates that we're trying to find our joy again, and the way that we're kind of jumping around and sort of chanting as that chord note pulse on the bass or the kick drum there without a lot else with the drum kit. I think, as I understand it, that was a conscious decision by Lee and their John Tringham, if I'm not mistaken. It's just, you didn't need a full drum kit for this. It works well with the string sections, but just to allow that pulse there still to push us forward with the vocals and rhythmic unison with that was really good. I think another thing to sort of discuss here is that I feel that overall the vocal performance is stellar. I'm really happy to hear the kind of earnest approach that Lee has with their voice on this track. I think it shows experience, not just with understanding how to sort of use their vocal range, being comfortable with the head to chest voice, and you know, just creating and putting forward distinct melodies and ideas per section. It's also another couple of things in the sense that there are some really fantastic vocal harmonies, and we know when to sort of add layers on, like during the chorus sections, and when to sort of be a little bit less sort of like of a storyteller and to more sort of be like another instrument within the ether, such as the end with the vocal harmonies and throughout there. I think that there's a lot of room in a song like this. Well, not a whole bunch, because it's got a full sounding track, but there's enough space in here to sort of do what you want to in regards to storytelling. But I think that you don't need to handhold the listener the entire time, even though you could have done that. It was, you know, Lee's very easy to listen to. There's a kind of nice sort of like fry to his voice there, a bit of kind of grit there that shows a sort of earthiness, and it makes it sort of sound more grounded. It's just having enough sort of variety in there compositionally or layer wise in order to keep it intriguing there. And the split structurally makes it even better. I think finally, if I was to comment on another thing there, it's basically the quality of the studio production. I appreciate that there's a lot of brightness in the mix there with the keys and the strings and the guitars being the forefront for the vast majority of the track there. I think having most of these things in the higher end creates this kind of, not only sort of like a folksy kind of like sort of tonality, kind of again making it sound more grounded, but it also insinuates a glow of the light maybe shining on us as we come out of the darkness that we've been in with the situation. When things sort of like open up with it being instrumental specifically there, these are highlighted, and it's the music surrounds you in the headphones. You know, it's a full sounding mix there, and I appreciate that. And we don't hesitate to get the listener immediately introduced into our world and sort of comfortable there. There's no real harsh textures, and that's just down to sort of a compositional thing outside of it being a more production-based thing. You know, the chord choices that we have here with a lot of major orienteds, maybe some susses, etc. You know, it's suspended chords. There are decisions to not try and be too sort of like tricky or inaccessible, but having that focus in the mid to upper ranges there without trying to sort of have too much sort of bass resonance does make it seem kind of airy and light and fluffy, and it does reinforce a lot of the sort of positivity, I suppose, of the part later in the piece. It's not too pronounced earlier on to sort of not be sort of disingenuous when coupled with the subject matter, but it is pronounced later on. I just feel like that's a sensible decision. in studio. Like, there's no red resonant frequencies, and it's nice and loud without pumping. It's very full, it's nice secluded, but in a way that isn't sort of like off-putting or too much. But ultimately, that's my review of this track from an act named Lee Wilding. There's nothing here that I personally feel needs to be fixed or adjusted in terms of constructive critique. I think all around it's a very sort of like capable track from a capable musician and everyone else involved, and I think that they should be proud of themselves. Hopefully you enjoyed the track. If you did, please do go show them some love via the various social medias, and I'm sure this will be out on digital stream platforms around the times I mentioned earlier. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.